Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Law and Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. Thanks for joining us. A lot is happening here on the network. We have a lot to break down, including what happened yesterday in court. So let's get started right now. First, though, I want to let you know that we're planning on jumping back live this morning into the Sigfredo Garcia and Catherine Magbanua trial. These are two of the three people accused of plotting and carrying out the execution shooting of FSU law professor Dan Markel. It has been alleged that they were hired by Markel's ex-wife's family to carry out the hit. Luis Rivera, the third co-defendant, the man who took a plea deal in exchange for testifying against his co-conspirators, finished his 8-hour-long testimony yesterday, and hopefully we'll have an opportunity to break it down a little bit later in the program. Again, we're going to be able to jump back live soon. I'm keeping a careful eye on the courtroom feed, so I'll let you know when that starts up. Right now, though, we have to just recap the incredibly dramatic moments yesterday in the Amber Geiger courtroom. Now, as you know, Guyger was found guilty for murdering Botham Jean by shooting him to death in his apartment. As you recall, not only did the jury reject the idea that it was a reasonable mistake for Geiger to think he was entering her own apartment that night and believe that Jean was an intruder, but they also rejected choosing manslaughter instead of murder. Now, the jury heard victim impact statements from various family members of Jean during the sentencing phase, and we also heard from those on Geiger's side as well. And in a twist that I've just never seen before, and I don't think any of us ever saw coming, the younger brother of Jean not only testified that he wants only the best for Geiger and doesn't want her to go to prison, but as you can see, he actually got up and gave her a hug in open court. Never seen that before. The judge, Tammy Kemp, also hugged Geiger after the conclusion of the case. And in a bizarre twist there, she actually said that Geiger, she gave her a Bible and said that she needs her to read John 3:16. So we're going to understand exactly what happened there. But before we get to that, what was the sentence? Because the jury had the option of 5 years to life in prison. But if they considered the idea that Geiger killed Jean under sudden passion, then the range could have been reduced to 2 to 20 years in prison. Here's what they decided. Joining me now is attorney Terri Austin. Terri, 10 years in prison. The jury rejected that sudden passion idea, but 10 years. Is that what you expected? Do you think that was the right decision?
I will say I was very surprised by the short term. And I think that what the jury did is they didn't find that there was manslaughter. They thought that there was murder. So you would think it would be a much longer sentence. But I think in their minds, they thought she said, I intended to kill him. So for them, that was murder. But then when they considered the fact that when she arrived there, she really wasn't intending on killing anyone. And I think in their minds, they gave a manslaughter penalty on a murder conviction. So that's what I think sort of happened with the jury. And that's why I think we have, such a contradiction in terms of the conviction and the penalty phase.
This is not an easy case. I get it. Totally. 100%. And we even saw such compassion, such mercy by Botham Jean's family in the courtroom, which was just so shocking to see and pretty remarkable. But when you read the text messages that she sent, and which were introduced during the sentencing phase. So the idea about the Martin Luther King Jr. Day parade that was held in January 2015, Geiger's response to when does this end? She wrote, when MLK is dead. Oh, wait. That is something the jury heard. They also heard the idea that after the shooting, she was a bit cavalier, texting her partner, drinking. So did that come into their decision? Because 10 years, people are probably saying she murdered a man in his own apartment. 10 years, that's it? So what do you think?
Yes, I think you're right, Jesse. I think those texts were the most damaging part of the penalty phase. And I think that jurors disregarded that. I think that the argument was that they were joking and that they were not serious and that this is what people do. So they did not take those texts seriously, because I think had they done that, they would have given a much longer penalty here, a much longer sentence. So they took into consideration that she, was a remorseful,
Right.
defendant here, and they didn't think that she was really an evil, mean or racist sort of person.
Well, like we said, so much of yesterday and what we heard during the sentencing was about the family members of John. I want to turn right now to Allison John, who is Botham's mother. She actually provided a statement after the sentencing. That was Botham Jean's mother talking about the changes that need to be made to Dallas law enforcement and the policies and how this should never happen again. But Terry, again, one of the big things that we heard in court yesterday was just this kind of compassion. Have you ever seen, and what did you make of the fact, the two hugs? So the one, of course, is Botham Jean's brother coming and hugging the woman who killed his brother. And then the judge coming down and hugging the defendant after the sentencing. What did you make of those two hugs?
Jesse, those two hugs were the most unprecedented experiences I've ever seen in court. I think that it's good for the human soul, and I think it's great to have people really reconcile their feelings, but it was, in my opinion, extremely prejudicial. And frankly, I think it could be grounds for, overturning the sentence, or at least for an appellate court to look at what occurred. So, if I were in that courtroom at the time, obviously it was very emotional, very moving, but I don't think the judge made the right decision to allow it to happen. They could have done all of this, I suppose, at another point in time. And for the judge to do it too, I'm not sure if that hug was in the presence of the jury. I don't think that it was. But certainly the brother's hug was in the presence of the jury, and that might have affected their decision on sentencing.
Well, you've never seen a judge do that before, right? And have you ever seen a judge hand a Bible and say, read John 3:16? Have you ever seen that before?
I have not. I can only say that obviously the judge was moved by the brother's testimony, and they were talking about God and finding God in jail, and the brother said that he hoped that Amber Geiger really dedicated her life to God, and 3:16 is all about that, and I think that's what motivated the judge to do that. But you're right, Jesse, I have never seen a judge do anything like that in civil or criminal or any type of court proceeding like this.
Well, I'll tell you what, both of those hugs, it should be noted, were outside the presence of the jury. But having said that, we, the viewers, the public, the world at large saw those hugs, and we can make our own opinions about what ultimately happened. But the jury was shielded from that. They made their determination about what was presented to them by both sides. We're going to take a break right now. I'm getting word that we can jump live into the Sigfredo Garcia, Catherine Magbanua trial. Stay tuned. We'll be right back right after this.